The line stretches infinitely, and you find yourself instinctively measuring its rhythm. People move forward with no particular hurry, yet a quiet momentum carries them along. You notice a man just a few spaces ahead fiddling with a watch that doesn't exist, winding and unwinding it as though it will tell him something important, and you can't help but wonder what he once kept track of in life. Behind him, a woman hums a tune you half recognize, absent-mindedly tapping her foot on the floor, and you trace the outline of her fingernails as she flexes them, waiting. The familiarity of small gestures makes you realize how much ordinary life lingers even here, even in a place that doesn't belong to ordinary time. A scent brushes past you, faint lavender and something sharper, like metal warmed in sunlight. It reminds you of the cafe you used to visit on rainy afternoons, the one with mismatched mugs stacked behind the counter. You catch yourself almost smiling, almost reaching for the comfort of memory, but the line doesn't pause for reminiscence. The people around you are quiet, faces soft with contemplation, expressions that float somewhere between curiosity and resignation. You see a boy tracing the rim of his coffee cup with a fingertip, just as someone used to trace your hand in life, and you feel a ripple of connection, brief as it is. Your mind drifts naturally to the questions that hang like fog above the line. Why are you here? What waits at the end? You notice a woman with a scar across her cheek staring straight ahead, lips pressed slightly together, and you imagine the story behind it, though it doesn't matter to anyone but you. You remember how she laughed once. Maybe it was a memory from another life, or maybe it's something conjured by your own longing, and you realize that even here, in the hum of the waiting, the tiniest gestures hold meaning. You still wonder if it was love or comfort that made life's moments linger so insistently in memory. The line shifts imperceptibly, as though an invisible hand brushes along its length, nudging you forward. You feel a subtle tension between curiosity and hesitation. The people around you murmur softly, words indistinct but comforting in their rhythm, like a lullaby in a language you almost remember. Someone brushes past and their coat smells faintly of rain, the kind of smell that sticks in your mind for hours, even days. You trace the outline of your own hands, noticing a small scar you hadn't seen before. Maybe a remnant of life, maybe a marker left by the line itself. A child appears somewhere ahead, holding a crumpled toy, their eyes wide with wonder, and you feel the pang of recognition, that inexplicable longing to soothe and protect, though there's nothing you can do. The line seems both endless and immediate, a paradox that makes the seconds stretch and contract simultaneously. You notice a faint glow from somewhere beyond the next bend, soft and inviting but distant, and your heart flutters, unsure whether it is hope or caution. You still wonder if stepping forward will change anything, if it even matters that you're here at all. The soft scrape of shoes on the smooth surface punctuates the quiet, and a gentle warmth brushes against your shoulders as someone moves past, leaving behind a scent of vanilla and smoke. You inhale deeply, holding on to the fleeting intimacy, and then it vanishes as quickly as it came. You realize you are aware of everyone around you in minute detail, the tilt of the head, the anxious flicker of eyes, the way someone taps their foot in an endless rhythm, and yet no one speaks, no one offers reassurance, and somehow that silence is comforting. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, tracing the edges of your coat with your fingertips. Time feels irrelevant, but memory insists on being present. You remember mornings spent watching sunlight filter through your window, or evenings listening to rain on the roof, and you notice how these memories drift into the line, becoming part of its hum. Someone laughs softly nearby, a sound almost lost, and it reminds you of yourself, of the ways you once found comfort in ordinary moments. You still wonder if anyone else here feels that echo of life, or if you were alone in noticing it. The first faint movement in the distance draws your attention. A figure disappears ahead, and for a moment, The line holds its collective breath. The air seems thinner, and the people near you glance forward with a quiet acknowledgement, subtle and unspoken. You feel a small tightening in your chest, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, and you notice the gentle rhythm of the line, how it shifts without words. Someone brushes your arm as they step forward, and the warmth leaves behind a trace, fleeting but real. You trace it with your mind, holding on to the sensation for longer than seems reasonable. And so you continue noticing details as you always do, tracing faces, gestures, scents, and sounds, learning the rhythm of the line. You follow the faint echoes of life that persist here, finding comfort in the tiniest observations, even as the uncertainty hums in the background. The line stretches on, endless, and yet there is something about the people around you, their quiet patience, their invisible bonds, that suggests you are not entirely alone. You still wonder, as you shift forward again, if this waiting is the end, or merely the beginning of something else entirely. The line seems quieter now, or maybe it's just that you notice the silences more sharply. You blink, and a few people ahead are gone, vanished into something you can't see. The gaps feel sudden, like someone has peeled the edges of reality away, and the world has swallowed them whole. You feel a prickle at the back of your neck, but it isn't fear exactly, more like the strange tug of curiosity, the kind that draws you closer even as you hesitate. The woman with the scar on her cheek, the one you studied before, is gone, and the empty space she leaves makes the air feel thinner. You watch the line bend gently forward, people moving almost imperceptibly, and you realize the subtle way absence shifts the rhythm of waiting. You glance around at the remaining faces, each one slightly altered by the thinning of the line. A man 2 spaces ahead twists his wedding ring absent-mindedly, the way someone might hold a keepsake from another life. You notice the soft sighs, the tiny furrows of concentration, the quiet tension in shoulders that might never relax. You trace the outline of his lips as he hums something barely audible, and it reminds you of an old song you used to hum under your breath, perhaps to soothe someone else, or maybe yourself. You still wonder if anyone else here remembers the small, insignificant things that made life feel full. A girl brushing her hair behind her ears shifts to step forward and vanishes just like that, leaving the faintest imprint of motion in the air. The space she leaves is almost luminous, as if her absence itself is visible, glowing with a soft resonance. You notice a tiny weight lift from your chest, the way tension eases when a friend laughs, though this is not laughter, only the quiet passage of someone no longer there. Your eyes trace the air where she stood, the curl of her hair, the delicate tilt of her head, and you realize how quickly familiarity can turn fleeting. Somewhere near you, a man coughs softly and reaches for the strap of his backpack, tugging it to adjust as if the disappearance around him requires a kind of anchoring in the real. You watch his careful movements and notice the peculiar tenderness in his gestures, the way he straightens his collar with precision, the faint curl of a smile that seems meant for no one. You imagine his life, the small joys, the quiet habits, and it strikes you how intensely personal every moment here remains, even as the line itself erases people. You still wonder if they knew each other in life, or if they've always been strangers converging here, waiting together without really touching. A faint breeze brushes past, carrying a hint of something sweet, almost like jasmine, and it reminds you of someone you loved once, how their hair smelled in sunlight, how they pressed their hand against yours. The memory fades gently as the line hums on, and the people nearby move with a silent awareness of the spaces opening ahead. You watch another figure disappear forward, a subtle ripple through the line, like the gentle swell of a tide. The rhythm of absence begins to feel almost musical, each vanish a note and a melody that no one conducts but everyone hears. You notice a woman tapping her fingers on the edge of a railing, slowly, almost thoughtfully, the pattern familiar as if it belonged to some half-remembered lullaby. You follow the motion with your eyes, tracing each tap, and feel the strange intimacy of observation. The way noticing someone can feel like a shared secret, even without a word exchanged. You still wonder whether she notices you noticing her, whether in the small gestures we leave behind, we ever truly connect, or if connection is only a phantom here, a ghost of life's fleeting attention. The line bends slightly to the left, revealing a space where 3 people once stood. Now there's just the echo of them, the faint impression of bodies and movements that have already vanished. You step closer to peer into it, feeling an odd mix of hesitation and fascination. A subtle scent lingers, cinnamon, warm and sweet, almost comforting, and you trace it with your senses, letting the memory fold into your thoughts. You recall a market stall long ago, the smell of pastries and sunlight on baked bread, and you feel that brief, tender ache of longing, the kind that whispers softly but persistently, a reminder of life's sweetness. A boy with tousled hair glances at you and then disappears, leaving behind a faint warmth in the air. You notice the pattern of his footsteps as they fade, a rhythm that your mind tries to hold on to even though it is gone. Someone near you hums a melody that almost matches it, a delicate resonance that feels unplanned yet somehow comforting. You still wonder what lies beyond the next bend in the line, whether the people who vanish are carried somewhere familiar or into an entirely new unknown. The line feels thinner now, the movement forward both subtle and insistent. You watch as more vanishings occur, each one leaving a whisper of absence, a soft adjustment in the balance of the space around you. You notice the way the air changes with each person gone, the subtle hush, the gentle hollow, and you recognize a new rhythm, one you can almost synchronize with, if only for a moment. Someone smiles faintly beside you, a gesture that is fleeting yet meaningful, and you feel the fragile connection that persists even as everyone disappears forward. You take a breath and feel the quiet pull of curiosity, that same tug that drew you forward when you first arrived. The line feels like a puzzle you can't solve, a riddle that doesn't demand answers yet insists on attention. You notice a hand brushing the railing, the light flickering across it, the subtle tilt ahead, and you understand that even in this quiet erosion of presence, the smallest human details endure. You still wonder whether the line will ever end, whether the next vanishings will reveal something you can recognize, or whether the endless quiet is all there is to know. You blink, and suddenly the line feels emptier. A familiar face is gone, someone you had been silently observing, and the space they leave is almost too quiet, as if the air itself has remembered them and now mourns their absence. You notice the curve of a chair that no longer holds a body, the faint bend of a coat sleeve abandoned mid-gesture, and your chest tightens in that odd, human way when absence feels heavier than presence. You realize that what you once took for routine, the small habits people carry through life, are now all you have to trace the living echoes of those around you. You shift slightly, watching as another person vanishes ahead. Their departure is sudden, almost unceremonious, but it leaves a mark. You remember a friend you loved once, someone who always tilted their head when listening, the way they traced invisible patterns on a table with their fingers. That memory slides through you now, mingling with the line, and you notice that even in absence, gestures persist, like ripples on water that never quite fade. You still wonder if anyone else notices these echoes, or if you are alone in keeping them alive. A man ahead adjusts his scarf, the loose ends brushing against the curve of his coat, and then he's gone. You linger on the memory of that motion, tracing the edge of it in your mind, and feel a peculiar intimacy, the sort that arises when you observe someone closely without their knowing. A faint smell of tobacco drifts past, clinging to nothing, and it reminds you of a bench you once sat on, watching clouds roll across a gray sky. There's comfort in the familiarity, a gentle tether to what used to be, even as the line continues, indifferent to longing. Somewhere behind you, a low chuckle rises and fades, a sound that could belong to anyone or no one at all. You follow it with your ears, then let it go, and realize you are becoming attuned to the tiny vibrations of presence, the softest exhalations of the people around you. A woman nearby taps her fingers on the railing, a rhythm almost imperceptible, and you trace it in your mind as though you could play along. The line seems alive in this way, composed of small, persistent details that remain even as faces vanish. You still wonder if the line remembers the people it has carried forward, or if memory dissipates with absence. A flash of movement catches your eye, a boy, familiar somehow, disappears mid-step, leading behind a faint shimmer, a trace of motion that dissolves slowly. You notice how quickly the line is thinning, how spaces expand and contract as if the world itself is breathing. You follow the glow he leaves behind with your mind's eye, holding on to it, savoring the small warmth it gives, a quiet proof that someone once occupied that place. The hum around you feels softer, gentler, almost like a lullaby meant for those who wait patiently and watch closely. You notice the peculiar quirks that persist in absence. A hand lingers on a railing long after the person is gone. A shoe tilts slightly as if hesitant to leave. You reach out subconsciously, tracing the air where a coat once hung, feeling the curve of fabric that is no longer there. It's almost silly, this attachment to fleeting traces, but it comforts you in ways you don't fully understand. You still wonder if these fragments are echoes of love, memory, or simply the stubborn persistence of ordinary habits. A man coughs quietly nearby, glancing forward with a gentle frown, and you see him straighten, adjust his posture, and then vanish. You notice the empty space he leaves, the subtle hollow, and it reminds you of a room after someone has left, how silence stretches to fill the corners. A soft aroma of coffee drifts past, ghostly yet familiar, and it evokes a morning in a cafe where someone you once cared for tapped their spoon against the mug, lightly, rhythmically. The memory feels alive, more so than the line itself, and you hold it, tracing the edges of it as the hum continues around you. You catch a glance of a woman's profile before she disappears, a sharp jawline soft gelled by the curve of her cheek. The way her hair fell across one eye. You trace it in your mind, noting every detail, and feel the odd ache of noticing someone vanish. You recall small arguments that seemed unimportant at the time, the shared jokes, the fleeting laughter, and the weight of life's small moments presses gently against you. You still wonder if the line carries understanding, whether it knows what it has gathered, or if it simply moves, indifferent, swallowing people quietly. A child appears briefly, looking around with wide, curious eyes. They vanish almost immediately, leaving behind a sense of suspended innocence, and you feel a tug in your chest, a reminder of the fragility and wonder that life carries even here. You watch the air settle after their disappearance, notice the faint echo of giggles, and trace it slowly with your thoughts. The line feels less like a waiting room and more like a gallery of subtle human traces, each one delicate and luminous, persisting long after the owner has moved forward. You start noticing your own habits and response, the way you tap your fingers on your leg, the small swaying of your body, the soft inhalations as you watch others vanish. Each gesture becomes a marker of presence, a proof that even in an endless line, life's echoes linger. You still wonder if someone will notice yours, if someone will trace the edges of you in the way you trace them, or if the line simply carries everything forward without attention or care. The gentle pull forward begins again, imperceptible yet insistent. You follow it, tracing each empty space left behind, each faint glow, each small quirk of movement, feeling the rhythm of absence settle into your body. The line thins further, and you notice how much the air changes, how hollow it feels without the people who have gone before. And yet, even in that quiet, there is a strange intimacy, a connection formed through observation, memory, and the subtle, persistent presence of vanished gestures. You still wonder how far this line stretches and what, if anything, waits just beyond the next bend. The line seems to pull you forward almost imperceptibly now, a gentle insistence that feels like leaning into a soft wind. Each step is automatic, yet your mind hums with quiet attention to the subtle changes around you. People vanish ahead with increasing speed, leaving spaces that glow faintly before fading into the texture of the line itself. You notice the small habits they leave behind: the tilt of a head, the curve of a hand, and feel an odd mixture of wonder and melancholy, like watching shadows stretch across familiar walls. You still wonder if the line itself notices the people it carries or if it simply moves, indifferent, like a river flowing over stones long forgotten. A man to your right adjusts the strap of his bag, a simple gesture that feels oddly intimate in this quiet place, and then he's gone. The air where he stood shivers slightly, like heat above asphalt in summer, and you trace it with your mind, holding onto the fleeting warmth. You inhale the faint scent of his cologne, a mix of cedar and citrus, and it brings back a memory of someone you once knew, their hand brushing yours as they handed you a coffee. You notice the subtle ache of recognition, the small wonder that memory can persist even here. A woman ahead hums softly, a tune just at the edge of your hearing. The sound lingers even after she disappears, like a ripple through still water, and you lean slightly forward to catch it, feeling the soft tug of nostalgia. You remember how her fingers used to drum lightly on the edge of a mug, that same rhythm embedded in the melody of her humming, and it reminds you of how intimately small gestures tie people to memory. You still wonder if she ever noticed your glances, your careful tracing of her habits, or if connection here is always one-sided, a silent observation of life now gone. The line stretches thinner, the spaces left behind glowing faintly as the people vanish, and you feel the rhythm of absence settle deep into your body. You notice how quickly each new emptiness adjusts the world around you, how the air seems lighter, softer, more resonant. Someone's coat flutters briefly in the space they leave, a quiet reminder that movement was once here. You trace it with your hands, even though nothing is tangible, feeling the residue of presence in a way that is both comforting and strange. A child vanishes just ahead, leaving behind a delicate echo of laughter, and you feel the familiar tug of longing, the small ache for innocence lost or never fully grasped. You notice your own response, the way your shoulders relax as if trying to absorb their lingering joy, the soft pull of your heart towards something pure and fleeting. The line hums gently, a soft undercurrent of sound that seems to cradle the spaces left behind, and you still wonder if the child feels it too, wherever they have gone. The pull forward is subtle but undeniable, almost like being drawn along a quiet current. You notice the faint shimmer in the air where someone disappeared, the soft rise and fall of the line, the gentle shift in the patterns of waiting. A woman brushes her hair back behind her ear, her fingers lingering on a curl, and then she vanishes, leaving a trace of warmth and light. You follow the movement with your mind, tracing each detail with care, noticing how even in absence, the human touch lingers. You still wonder if all of this, the traces, the glows, the soft echoes, is a message or simply the way the line works. You pause for a moment, sensing a deep quiet around you. The line has grown almost empty, a sparse collection of spaces that hum with faint life. You notice the details of your own movements, your hands brushing along the railing, the soft tap of your shoes, the rhythm of your breathing, and realize that your presence too is leaving traces, echoes that others may or may not notice. The line seems to fold itself around you, intimate yet vast, familiar yet ungraspable. A man vanishes suddenly ahead, leaving a soft shimmer in the air, and you watch the glow fade slowly. You remember a laugh from long ago, the sound of someone you loved spilling into a quiet room, and it merges with the gentle hum of the line. You trace the memory, savoring the way small moments linger like the residue of sunlight on a window pane. You still wonder whether the line carries understanding, whether it recognizes these echoes, or if it simply moves forward without care, leaving traces to dissolve naturally over time. The gentle push forward continues, and you notice the subtle way the line curves and folds, the spaces stretching and shrinking, the faint luminescence of absence growing stronger. You observe a hand lingering on the railing, a scarf brushing lightly against a coat, the tilt of a head, all gestures that feel intensely personal, despite the emptiness surrounding you. The line is no longer simply a waiting room. It is a tapestry of small human moments, each one delicate, each one fading, each one quietly luminous. As you step forward, almost alone now, you feel the weight of observation and memory settling gently around you. Every trace you notice, every echo you follow, becomes part of the rhythm of the line, a quiet testament to the persistence of human presence. You still wonder if the line will ever end, if the glowing spaces ahead hint at a conclusion, or if this is the way of things, endlessly stretching, endlessly folding, carrying absence and memory together in soft, persistent motion. The line is almost empty now. Only a few figures remain ahead, flickering like faint stars on the horizon of an endless sky, and the gentle pull forward feels both inevitable and strangely tender. You notice the subtle rhythm of your own breathing, the soft shuffle of your shoes, the way your fingers graze the railing, and it reminds you that even in isolation, you are a participant in this quiet, collective unfolding. Each step feels slow, deliberate, weighted with both curiosity and memory, and you begin tracing the small habits that persist around you, traces of those who have already gone. A woman ahead tilts her head slightly, her hair falling over one eye, and then she vanishes, leaving behind a faint warmth that hangs in the air like a soft sigh. You trace the curve of her profile with your mind, savoring the subtle details, the gentle rise of her shoulder, the delicate tremor in her hand, the quiet certainty of her presence, even in absence. It strikes you how small gestures hold more meaning here than they ever did in life, how the tiniest motions can persist as fragile, luminous markers in an otherwise endless line. You still wonder if she knew she mattered, or if significance is something the line itself assigns. A man shifts his weight slightly, brushing his coat against the railing, and disappears. The air hums in the quiet wake of his passing, and you notice how much lighter the space feels, how the line seems to respond to absence as though it is alive, breathing in the vacated moments. You follow the subtle shimmer he leaves behind with your eyes, tracing it as if it were tangible, holding on to it for a heartbeat longer than seems reasonable. Memory and observation intertwine here, the line and its occupants forming a soft, intricate web of presence and absence. You begin to notice your own habits mirrored back at you. The way you tap your fingers lightly, the soft sway of your body, the careful tracing of invisible shapes in the air. Each gesture becomes a quiet proof of life, a delicate echo that persists even as the line thins. A faint scent of lavender drifts past, mingling with something earthy, grounding, and it reminds you of moments you once took for granted. A morning sunbeam on a windowsill, laughter spilling over the edge of a quiet afternoon, the subtle warmth of someone's hand brushing yours. You still wonder how long these traces linger, whether they are absorbed by the line or simply drift, waiting to be noticed again. A child appears ahead for just an instant, eyes wide with wonder, a small hand raised in an unspoken greeting. And then they vanish. The space they leave shimmers softly, a quiet resonance that fills your chest with warmth and longing all at once. You follow the motion of their disappearance with your mind's eye, noting the gentle tilt of their head, the way their footsteps had barely pressed into the surface before fading. It is both comforting and melancholy, a reminder that even fleeting presence leaves behind something quietly luminous. The pull forward feels more pronounced now, yet gentle, like a current you can't resist. You notice how the empty spaces glow faintly, the faint outline of gestures that have already passed, and the soft echo of voices long vanished. You trace the curves of their coats, the tilt of their heads, the rhythm of small habits, and feel a deep intimacy in observation. Each absence feels like a quiet invitation, a nudge to move forward and notice, to carry memory alongside you as you progress. You still wonder if the line itself knows, if it recognizes the people it carries, or if it simply continues endlessly, drawing everyone forward into the unknown. The line hums, a soft, persistent resonance that seems almost alive. The last figures ahead vanish, leaving faint glows that flicker before dissolving entirely. You feel a gentle weight of solitude, yet not loneliness, rather a soft, meditative awareness of presence in its purest form. You notice the patterns in your own breathing, the subtle movements of your hands and feet, and the faint impressions you leave on the air, realizing that your presence is woven into the rhythm of the line itself. The pull forward continues, subtle but insistent, guiding you through empty spaces and soft light. You feel the gentle brush of unseen warmth, the echo of gestures that are no longer visible, and the lingering traces of familiar routines, a hand resting lightly, a head tilted in thought, a soft tap on a surface long gone. Each detail becomes part of the quiet tapestry around you, a testament to human presence in a world that moves gently, endlessly forward. You still wonder what lies just beyond, what awaits at the end of this line, but the uncertainty is soothing rather than frightening, a quiet invitation to notice, to reflect, to breathe. You walk on nearly alone, tracing memories both your own and those left behind, letting each vanish into gentle awareness without grasping too tightly. The line hums softly around you, a lullaby of absence and persistence, and your mind drifts through familiar touches, fleeting glances, and the tiny gestures that make life recognizable. You notice the faint shimmer of light on a surface, recall the warmth of a hand held once, the laughter that echoes in memory, and feel a slow, soft peace settling through your body. As the line narrows to its final spaces, you feel the rhythm of the waiting dissolve into reflection. You trace the contours of your own memory, of life's small joys, of habits and quirks that endure, and the faint glow around you seems to cradle these traces. The quiet hum of presence becomes a gentle reassurance, a soft whisper that all the moments gone, fading, or lingering matter in their own delicate way. You still wonder what awaits beyond, yet there is no urgency, only the serene, endless awareness of moving forward. The line slows almost imperceptibly now, and the hum around you softens to a tender, almost inaudible vibration. Your steps feel lighter, your breathing gentler, as if the world itself is exhaling with you. The glow of absent people fades into soft luminescence, leaving only traces, like the faint warmth of sunlight lingering on a wall long after the sun has dipped. You notice the rhythm of your own heartbeat, the delicate shift of weight from one foot to the other, the slow stretch of your arms, and you feel the quiet intimacy of being present in a space that no longer requires movement or urgency. You allow yourself to trace the last lingering memories of faces, gestures, and moments. A hand brushing railing, the tilt of the head, the faint scent of coffee or lavender, it all becomes part of the gentle current that carries you forward. The hum wraps around you like a soft blanket, reassuring you that everything you have noticed, remembered, or traced is not lost but folded into the fabric of this endless line. You feel the quiet pleasure of observing, of noticing, of allowing your mind to rest in the tender details of human presence, even in absence. Your thoughts drift slowly, effortlessly. You recall small joys, the laughter of friends, the touch of a hand, the curve of a smile, the subtle patterns of life that you once overlooked. Each memory is a soft echo, carrying warmth into the space around you. The line no longer feels empty, but filled with the gentle resonance of all those who have moved forward, and with the knowledge that even your own presence leaves subtle traces, small luminous echoes in the quiet. You still wonder at the delicate persistence of memory and presence, but the question no longer presses, it floats softly, part of the hum itself. The air feels softer now, the light gentler, and your mind allows itself to slow completely. There's no hurry, no expectation, only the calm awareness of stepping forward, of being here, of noticing and breathing and tracing gentle patterns. You feel the lingering warmth of absence, not as loss, but as tenderness, a quiet companion that accompanies you as you continue through the line. Your body relaxes fully, your thoughts soften, and you feel yourself folding into the rhythm, into the calm, into the soft lull of the endless hum. As you step slowly forward, you sense that the journey has settled, that the endless line is both quiet and alive, carrying memory, presence, and the soft glow of human traces forward. You exhale gently, letting your mind drift into the quiet folds of awareness, and feel the soft reassurance that everything observed, remembered, and cherished remains luminous in this gentle space. The line hums, comforting, steady, and you allow yourself to float into the warmth of reflection, into the quiet, into the lullaby of presence and absence, until all that is left is the soft glow of gentle awareness.